Greetings, Wake Forest students, parents, and families. It is good to be with you again tonight. Thank you for joining us. Last time we gathered together online, we outlined the plan, our way forward for the fall semester. Since then, we've received a lot of information and been asked to make a lot of decisions. We deeply appreciate your patience and flexibility as we navigate these challenges together. Tonight, you will hear from several Wake Forest leaders on our programs towards opening in the fall. We will hear updates on the academic experience, on residents' life, housing, on health and safety, and the student experience in the midst of pandemic. But first, let me offer a few brief thoughts. Wake Forest exists to educate young people committed to pursuing their potential and passion. In order to better our world, our commitment to excellence in our academic work is unyielding, and we intentionally design our education in the context of an engaged, personal community. All the while, we are unwavering in our dedication to educating the whole person and upholding our commitment to Pro Humanitate. Even amidst this pandemic, Wake Forest remains committed to being a deeply personal place. As John Newman said, a university should be an alma mater that knows her children one by one, not a mint, a foundry, or a treadmill. Wake Forest is a seedbed of personal connections in the classroom and even online, among students in athletics and dance and theater, in debate and student government. Studies show that the most common element in whether college students are successful is whether anyone takes a personal interest in them. I can assure you the faculty and staff of Wake Forest will have deep personal interest in students, whatever the daunting challenges we face this fall. And this is a place that attempts to model for students, however imperfectly we do it, model how a diverse people can function in community, where students can come to understand their own ideas and prejudice, engage people different from themselves, and hopefully learn how to be inclusive and welcoming. In our fractious and polarized society, we see a campus like this serving as a model of hospitality. And if we can do that in some measure, that would be a great gift for emerging leaders such as yourselves. In order to pursue these goals that involve both intellect and character, mind and heart, in these uncommon times, we have invested significantly in our faculty members over the summer. They are working hard to convert their signature in-person class experiences to a variety of delivery modalities. They have been executing peer-to-peer planning around these modalities, and it is going very well. I am deeply grateful for the careful and thoughtful work that our faculty members have done to prepare for the upcoming semester. Our ability to fulfill our purposes and deliver our educational mission this semester will be guided by the Our Way Forward plan. With the input of many on our campus, we have built a strong model and solid plan to prevent and respond to the virus. As you know, our success relies on the shared commitment of our whole community to the health of all. Even as we help students reach their potential goals and academic potential, our progress will depend on everyone taking responsibility for the role they will play in the health of everyone else. As we developed our way forward, we also had the advantage of being guided by very competent public health experts, both on the Renolda campus and from our medical center. Their continuing insight and expertise is invaluable as we prepare to provide for the health of our community this semester. I'm grateful for their wisdom and knowledge that will help guide our community forward. We are confident in the strengths of our current plan and believe that we can execute these plans well. However, we continue to stay vigilant about shifting conditions. We have developed a full plan to adjust if we need to in order to keep our students and community healthy while successfully completing the semester. If circumstances should prompt us to move everything to remote learning, we will. And although we may have to adapt, we will continue to offer our trademark academic experience. Of course, it is our hope that as a country, we can gain the upper hand in the battle against this virus, and that conditions will allow us to do more in person in classroom and around campus. But time will tell. If there's anything we have learned in the past several months, it is the great need for flexibility. We have built flexibility into our plans, but we are living in the midst of evolving circumstances. So I ask that as we continue to navigate these waters, we all approach this semester with a flexible mindset and a ready ability to adapt to change as it comes. In the next few minutes, you will hear more details about this fall at Wake Forest. But let the most important fact you hear tonight be that we eagerly await you being here together again as Wake Forest students and as a community. We've been planning for you, and we look forward to seeing you all again. Now let me turn the time over to two deans, Michelle Gillespie, the Dean of the College, and Charles Iacovu, the Dean of our Business School.
Thank you, President Hatch. Hello, everyone. First, we want to say how much we've missed you. Usually your faculty members spend their summers completing research and preparing for another rigorous academic year. This summer has instead been quite different, a fast-paced one in which all our faculty have gone above and beyond to prepare for your return this fall semester, so we can have you back with us in a way that prioritizes your safety and health and upholds the same high academic standards that you have experienced throughout your time at Wake Forest. Our preparations for fall have been anchored in two key points. We want you to enjoy the same special close relationships with your faculty members that you've always had, and we want you to have opportunities to dig in and engage in your academics while knowing our world requires flexibility, new safety standards, and creative options available for those who cannot be with us on campus this fall. Now I'd like to ask my colleague, Dean Iacovu, to share with you an overview of the various courses that will be offered during the fall.
Thank you, Dean Gillespie. I too want to express my excitement and anticipation about having you back on campus in a few weeks and supporting those of you who are unable to join us in person through our online courses. In terms of the courses that you'll be taking this fall, both in the college and the School of Business, you'll have three main options when it comes to course modalities. These are face-to-face, blended, and online. About 50% of our courses will have an in-person component and about 50% will be online. Let me describe each of these modalities in detail. Our face-to-face courses are fully on-ground classes. These courses will have all regularly scheduled sessions occurring in person and on campus with all students participating with the instructor together. These classes will take place in classrooms that have been modified to accommodate social distancing requirements. Because of space restrictions, the face-to-face offerings have been reserved for those courses like labs and studios that have vital in-person requirements and comprise about 10% of our total class offerings for the fall. Face-to-face courses will not be the only courses that will gather together for in-person learning. Our blended courses will also have in-class sessions, and they will come in two flavors. First, our traditional blended courses will have a combination of in-person and online components with the assumption that all students in the course will be on campus for the in-person sessions. This could mean the class is divided into small cohorts where each cohort attends in-person gatherings together on specific days, and other instruction is handled through online delivery that can be done in small group study or individually. Our blended with online pathway classes, that's our second flavor of blended courses, will be offered with in-person components as well. The difference here is that none of the in-person portions are required, and the course can be taken entirely online if necessary. Let's say a student is not living in Winston-Salem this fall or needs to switch to learning remotely for a period of time. These courses allow them to still participate with their other classmates, even when those other classmates are on campus. We're excited about our blended offerings, which comprise about 40% of our total 4 classes. Let me just share a couple of examples of blended courses. In our business leadership classes, our professors will be taking a peer learning community approach. Students will take turns leading their class every week. They will complete role plays with video recordings, which they will watch and evaluate and will provide feedback to each other. They will exchange and debate ideas about authentic leadership and practice critical leadership skills. Students will get 360 feedback from their peers and create a personalized development plan for themselves. In another example, an introductory biology course will include an ecology assignment that requires data handling and quantitative analysis of a massive African animal data set. It's called Snapshot Serengeti, and it has captured millions of animal images, including elephants, lions, and others. Students will meet with the professor to discuss and develop their research projects, either in face-to-face meetings with their lab sections, if they're here on campus, or in synchronous Zoom sessions, if they're taking the course online from home. The course will conclude with an online mini conference where all students will share their findings with each other. Finally, in our fully online courses, all content and learning activities will be offered with no in-class requirements to help densify our classrooms and accommodate faculty and student needs. This option will allow those students who are not living on campus to continue their Wake Forest education from their homes, either in the US or abroad. Let me give you 3 examples to illustrate the exciting possibilities for such courses. In our math department, one professor will be sending her students a care package. That package will contain knitting and sewing materials, and she will teach her students to knit so they can better conceptualize the modeling of critical mathematical objects. We'll have a marketing course that includes a semester-long project that will invite students to conduct research and develop a marketing plan for products to serve consumers who want to be mindful and seek to find a peaceful focus in a time of chaos like this one. For the first time, alumni of the course will be invited to attend the final presentations of the students by virtually joining the course. And the professor teaching gender in world history online will have his students working in groups on mini research projects to write chapters for a textbook. This will be exciting collaborative work that produces a scholarly project sensitive to a contemporary student need that is absent in the field. The bottom line is that both Dean Gillespie and I are confident that we have an amazing lineup of courses that will be delivered in the fall despite the challenges imposed by the safety measures that we all must follow. Your faculty members have been working all summer to make sure they will offer you a state-of-the-art education this fall. All of them are now participating in a peer-to-peer learning program that is unique across the country to ensure that your courses will be truly engaging and challenging across all modalities. Dean Gillespie will provide a bit more information on that program and address a couple of other topics related to our fall courses. Dean Gillespie?
Thanks so much, Dean Iacovu. The peer-to-peer learning community program is indeed exciting, as it incorporates the best pedagogical practices for online learning and the best pedagogical practices that are our Wake Forest signature, without ever losing the personal connectedness and rigorous standards of our classrooms. We are doing this program for 2 reasons. First, to ensure faculty teaching with any degree of online will be excellent at it. And second, to ensure if we need to pivot wholly online, and we sincerely hope we will not have to do so, but if we do, we want to make sure that all our faculty are ready to offer an outstanding Wake Forest education, no matter what the modality. The proof is in the pudding, of course. Student evaluations from last month's wholly online summer session 1 offer strong evidence that we are getting it right. 91% of our students polled after the conclusion of summer session 1 indicated their faculty members maintain a strong, engaged presence during all their online activities and discussions. 92% of our summer students felt that all their online assignments, activities, and exams contributed to their strong understanding of the course materials. And in the business school, we offered several new courses this summer, including a brand new online version of our summer management program that was team taught by several outstanding faculty members and visiting practitioners, including the presidents of the Atlanta Braves and Chicago Cubs, who discussed the intersection of sports and business. Our program received a very strong student satisfaction score of 97% this summer. Now, parents have asked us, what if my child gets COVID and can't attend class? What will happen? Won't they get far behind? Will they have to withdraw, or will faculty work with them to turn in things at a later time? While each situation is unique, we have always worked with students who have gotten ill to ensure they can either catch up with their work during the semester or take an incomplete so they can finish it after the semester's end. If a student did get COVID and could not attend class, the student or student health services would let the Office of Academic Advising and her instructors know, and they would work with the student to see her through. Similar accommodations will be made for students who must quarantine because of COVID. As you can see, your Wake Forest education will continue with the same faculty commitment and preparation that your previous fall semesters have always had. You will have enhanced and flexible options while maintaining these high achieving standards we set for ourselves here at Wake. I know many of you also chose Wake Forest for students' wonderful personal and individual interactions with our faculty. And this remains embedded in every decision we make in the college. No matter the modality of your courses, your faculty members are so excited to have you back, and they so look forward to interacting with you and guiding your academic interests. They will be using email, office hours, in person, and through Zoom, and other exciting ways to develop these strong academic relationships with you. So be prepared to take a walk with a faculty member around the quad, or meet for coffee with your cohort at tables outside the pit. Plan for Zoom study sessions with others in your class, or sign up with a small group for a shared space in ZSR Library or a study space in your academic buildings. Above all, we do not want you to feel isolated, or we don't want you to stay in your dorm room. You will find multiple and fun new ways to get plugged back into your Wake Forest family. And as you all know, our campus is beautiful, especially in the fall, which will give us all the chance to enjoy each other's company safely together while we study or meet in small groups for social activities. Now, Dean Iacovu and I want to introduce you to Assistant Vice President of Campus Life and Dean of Residence Life and Housing, Matt Clifford, who will talk about residence life and housing.
Thank you, Deans Gillespie and Iacovu, for that great update. I can say for myself, I've been tremendously impressed with the creative approaches to teaching that our faculty are using for the upcoming semester. The deep commitment to teaching is so distinctive to Wake Forest, and it's certainly on full display through the faculty's consideration of these various teaching modalities. As you all well know, in addition to our investment in teaching, Wake Forest is cherished for our residential experience, where students learn and live in a vibrant setting that is intellectually and socially engaging. We remain committed to that vision, although certainly we are navigating a different pathway this year. We have just concluded the final round of our housing selection process, which we'd originally scheduled for mid-March. When we delayed our plans for housing selection, I had no idea it would be nearly August as we finalize our housing assignments for you. However, that time has allowed us to create a plan that allows for choice, flexibility, and ensures safety. As we've announced previously, we have worked closely with our public health experts to create a plan to reduce the number of people living in our residence halls and participating in activities on campus at any one time. We have carefully reviewed our residential offerings and have reduced occupancy where needed to promote the well-being of all community members. This fall, our communities will have more single rooms than usual, with approximately 65% single occupancy rooms and 35% double occupancy rooms overall. Additionally, we engineered housing selection to preserve opportunities for each class, understanding that our efforts to reduce density on campus have limited choices that you may have been planning for earlier this spring. I know the changes for this year's housing selection were unexpected and for some of you, hard to navigate. We believe that this pathway offered the best way to preserve as much student choice as possible, given the necessary changes in the residential environment. With the reduction in available rooms on campus, we were able to secure additional options off campus that will function as university-sponsored housing. Beacon Station, Crown Oaks, Crown Park, and Crown Polo are obviously apartment complexes near campus and on existing shuttle routes. At the Crown Apartments, we have an assortment of furnished units, including 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, and 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Each bedroom will be a single occupancy room, and students living at Crown properties will be required to carry a meal plan, with their minimum option being the apartment plan. In addition, the university has made arrangements with Beacon Station to reserve apartments at that property. Each apartment at Beacon Station comes fully furnished and has 4 single occupancy bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Students who selected from these spaces have been referred to Beacon Station to secure a private 12-month lease. I know these options and the particular arrangements for each may be confusing, but we found that these offer the best way to reduce density on campus and create safe living spaces off campus. Many of you have asked about the status of these communities at winter break and should the university need to close campus during the semester, which we're certainly all hoping doesn't happen. Given the status of Beacon Station as private leases, those students would be able to remain under the terms of their lease, and students at Crown properties may request to stay for winter break, should public health conditions permit. On the Renolda campus, the residence halls will look differently this year. In addition to reducing density at individual student rooms, we are also closely examining shared spaces. We take great pride in our buildings and know that relationships are formed and shaped through interactions in the hallway, lobbies, and even laundry rooms. Most of our signature common spaces will remain open, although you might notice less furniture inside, so we can reduce capacity and keep our community safe. You will still be allowed to have guests in your room, but expect those to be limited to residential students and restricted in numbers. As with anywhere else on campus, you and your guest should wear cloth face coverings when you are inside the residence halls and try to keep physical distancing as well. Non-student visitors will not be allowed on campus or in the residence halls. Our health and safety teams are closely evaluating the use of student organization lounge spaces. We expect to start the semester with all lounges and patios closed, with the exception of approved religious gatherings and lounges that have specific equipment needs, such as campus kitchen. Additionally, informal and spontaneous gatherings on student organization patios are not permitted. I know this is really difficult, but until we feel confident that we can provide for safety in all of our spaces, we need to reduce or limit access. And we hope to be able to expand student access to these areas, but will only do so if public health conditions permit. With the cancellation of our study abroad programs, we are expecting more students in Winston-Salem than usual during any given fall. Even with the addition of Beacon Station and the Crown Apartments, we have released more students from the residency requirement, most of them rising juniors. As you look for housing off campus, please know that we will continue to support your health and well-being through the Student Health Service. Living off campus in a small group, whether at a house or an apartment, should limit your risk for exposure if you continue to follow good health practices. If you or a roommate gets sick, we will give you guidance about the best way to isolate and quarantine, and we'll check in on you regularly using telehealth options. For our off-campus students, we need your commitment to keeping Winston-Salem safe too. That means limiting guests at your residence and gatherings where people cannot maintain social distancing or who aren't wearing cloth face coverings. Move-in, as I'm sure you well know, is right around the corner, and we are preparing mightily for your safe return to Winston-Salem. As you know, our move-in process will take place over several days to reduce the number of people on campus and in the residence halls. You have already started signing up for your 2-hour appointment to move in and are allowed to have 2 people help you during that slot. This allows us to reduce the number of people both on each floor and in each building at a time. You should use that 2 hours wisely to move in before you take a stroll around campus. However, we do recognize that students and families may still need to do some errands around town, and we ask that you keep those to a minimum and come to campus only if necessary and always with your student. In addition to move-in, some of you may be asking questions about dining. Whether at the Pit, the Mag Room, or the North Dining Hall, we are committed to your health and well-being in our food offerings. Our dining services staff have created a robust plan for the fall to ensure safety at all locations. You will see increased cleaning at food stations, including high-touch areas, and a deep cleaning at the end of each day. We will heavily focus on hand hygiene for both students and staff with hand washing stations and increased signage. Seating has been reduced and repositioned at all locations to provide for appropriate social distancing, and we have expanded dining locations, including outdoor tents and picnic tables. All stations in our on-campus restaurants will be served by an associate to allow for customization and safety. And if you don't want to dine in, we are now offering Grubhub ordering and pickup at all locations with increased grab and go options. And then finally, meet Good Uncle, Wake's premiered meal delivery app that provides nutritious, high-quality meals delivered to convenient spots on campus. You can pick up a chef-made meal and enjoy it in your room, gathering with friends under a shady tree on Davis Field, or elsewhere on campus. So I hope you can see from these plans an innovative approach to customization, safety, and convenience by our wonderful dining services team. Now, despite these plans, some of you may still be evaluating whether you want to stay home and take classes online or come to Winston-Salem. You have the flexibility to make that decision. It will not impact your eligibility to live on campus when you're ready. As I hope you can see, we are making plans with the intent to minimize major disruptions to the semester. However, that's not something we can guarantee. It's certainly something we don't hope takes place. If conditions require the closure of campus, refunds for housing, dining, wellness, and parking fees, if applicable, would be issued under a new university disruption refund policy. I know it's hard to follow along with all of the changes that are coming this year, but please know that they have been made to keep you safe and retain the essence of Wake Forest. As you know, ours is a caring community, and the best way that you can show others that you care about their safety is by taking these precautions to heart. Wearing a cloth face covering, washing your hands, and keeping physical distancing are the little things that show Wake Forest we care so deeply about this place and its people. I expect that many of you are eager to return to the place you have come to call home. While we have changed some things, it's still home. And to hear more about a renewed vision of the student experience, I'd like to turn it over to Miles Middleton, your student government president. Miles?
Thank you, Dean Clifford, and thank you to all the administrators for your hard work. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy as we prepare to get back to campus. I know my mother is ready for me to get out the house and get back to the campus to finish out my senior year. So similar to other parents, I hear you. It is important for us as students to acknowledge that this semester will be different. In our classes with our friends and on simple daily interactions, our normal will look different than past semesters. Just know our university offices and student organizations are working hard on programming to ensure that this semester is still filled with events that we can enjoy as a community. I also encourage everybody to help welcoming our new class of 2024 to campus and reach out a generous hand to make sure that they feel comfortable on campus. We've all been in that position before, and they are definitely in a different position. It is also important that we as students focus on ways that we can make the semester successful for ourselves, both as individuals and as a collective. We all have a sense of shared responsibility and duty to protect our fellow students, faculty, and staff who could be compromised by COVID-19 and who have been. As individuals, a priority will be to follow the guidelines that will be put out by our university officials. You need to hold yourself accountable first. We also will need to be team players for the sake of our friends in our halls or apartments. It is important that we hold each other to a high standard and hold each other up by encouraging safe practices. And lastly, as student leaders, organization presidents, or group leaders, we need to encourage all our group members to adhere to the guidelines to ensure the safety of our community. Luckily, There have been many student and administrative committees that have conducted focus groups and interacted with students to create transparency and effectively find solutions for the issues our campus is facing due to COVID-19. With that, my thanks goes out to the members of the various student committees that put their best foot forward in making this semester the best that it can be for our students. And definitely the students who are on those committees who are definitely hardworking. I thank you all. And then to the Wake Forest students, continue to be the people I know you are, hardworking and loving, dedicated and ambitious. I know you all will adapt and continue to be the best students and people you can be. I know this because I wouldn't be here without you all, and always making sure our university moves in the right direction is what you all have done, and keeping me honest is probably the best part of it. So thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with all of you. And now I will pass it on to Vice President Penny Rue to share an update on health and safety and the student experience. Vice President Rue.
Thank you so much, Miles. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your partnership and your leadership throughout the course of this summer. It's been truly remarkable, and we're very grateful. And now I'm glad to talk to all the rest of you about our precautions and what we think Wake Forest will be like in the fall. First, some critical public health information. North Carolina is in phase 2, with many things open, but requiring sound public health practices, like limited occupancy, strict cleaning protocols, and mask wearing. That means restaurants and retail establishments are open, but with limited capacity. Parks and swimming pools are open, but requiring lower density, mask compliance, and social distancing. You should all know that the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services provides a continually updated dashboard that you can always check. As of today, Forsyth County had a case rate of 123 per 100,000 residents. We have ample space in our hospitals, and mask compliance is sound around Winston-Salem. Here on our campus, our planning means that we have adequate personal protective equipment, staffing, and testing supplies. We have adequate personnel to perform contact tracing and acceptable housing density. We have sufficient housing for isolation and quarantine, and we have a system for daily health checks and exposure screenings. As you heard from the deans, our ability to deliver coursework in person and remotely is sound. And all of us, and I mean all of us, will be required to take training on public health measures. So that module will teach us all best practices, and we'll all be expected to participate with a daily wellness check called the Sneeze app. It uses illness data and symptoms reported by all of us. The real-time data will allow us to see if any symptoms are trending and make decisions about how to respond before there's an outbreak. On a weekly basis, we will provide transparency through a dashboard that will display to all of you the number of positive tests, the percent of positive tests, and the number of individuals recovered. These are the key metrics. Now, since we last met with you, you know that we've decided to require all undergraduates to seek a COVID-19 test before you come to campus. You may have seen my letter today with the details. Now, you might be wondering why the switch at this late date. So we are continually monitoring conditions across the country. We have a dashboard that shows the COVID prevalence in every county across the country in which a Wake Forest student lives. And we don't like the trend. Now, some schools have decided to go all remote or are inviting half of their students back. But we think the most measured step is to enhance our pre-arrival preparations and bolster our testing, quarantine, and isolation capacity. The most conservative approach is having you quarantine at home and show evidence of a negative test before you travel. A few schools are bringing people to campus and quarantining them there. We prefer the approach we've chosen. It gives us more time to prepare campus for social distancing, and it allows us to start classes on time. But we all need to recognize a negative test isn't some kind of free pass. It's just a snapshot in time. The students will still need to be fully committed to wearing masks, washing hands, and staying 6 feet apart. No plan is 100% effective, but we believe our strategy gives us all the best chance to start and finish the semester successfully. Our public health scientists say the risk of travel isn't high if you take the recommended precautions. I always have my antibacterial wipes with me, and I hope you do too. To make testing easy for you, we've contracted with an organization called Azova Health, who will mail a simple saliva swab to your home and give you the results through a shared portal. I know this is a lot to ask, but we need you to quarantine at home for the 2 weeks before coming to campus. That means remaining at home without physical contact outside of your family. You've all heard about asymptomatic spreaders, and this is the most prudent way to limit that possibility. Again, we really don't want to have to send you all home before Thanksgiving. Now, let me address how we're preparing campus for students to return. We've done a terrific job in de-densifying the campus, making it easy to comply with the 6-foot rule through strategic furniture removal and creative signage. Offices will be open and services will be available both in person and virtually, based upon students' locations and preferences. We will rotate staff to comply with social distancing guidelines. Now, Miles mentioned the work of student leaders throughout the summer. They've been hard at work in developing a social compact that we'll ask you all to abide by. That group began with a strong commitment. What will it take to allow us to remain together on campus till Thanksgiving? Their effort is aspirational, the ways that we want to be with and for each other. The most frequent question I hear, especially from your faculty, is, will students be smart about their risks? I can't answer that, but the most frequent thing I hear students say is, I'll forgo big parties if I can hang out with my friends. So we will educate you all carefully about how to avoid COVID-19 and provide lots of positive reinforcement when you make good choices. But those aspirations are also backed up by a public health addendum to our code of conduct that spells out our specific expectations and whose violations could result in educational or restrictive sanctions. Just remember, we want everyone to stay healthy. Now, another group of students, probably some of you, have led a creative process to reimagine how we can stay safe and still have fun. They've come up with great ideas that build on social distance, many reimagined for the safer outdoor settings. We'll have reservable tents that you can use. This group has generated lots of ideas, but we know that students are most likely to support events planned by other students. So the Office of Student Engagement is ready to help you. They're streamlining event planning and access to SAFE funds to help your group succeed. They and RAs will help you connect with our newest deacons so you can reach the new members you need to thrive. We're re-envisioning Hearn Plaza as the living room of campus rather than just a pretty place. What ideas do you have about the fun events that we can hold there? We're thinking, and students have suggested, open mic nights, food truck Fridays, student-led cookouts, a cappella concerts, ice cream socials, football watch party on a big outdoor screen with pizza and wings from Zix, a frisbee golf tournament. Whatever it is, we'll help you make it a reality. And we're also prepared when things don't go well, as Dean Clifford alluded to. So when someone tests positive for COVID-19, we'll begin to contact trace immediately, identifying the people that you've been in contact with for more than 15 minutes in an unmasked setting. This summer, we've had 3 students test positive and all have recovered beautifully. Students diagnosed with COVID-19 will be in isolation. They'll have a daily phone call from Student Health, a nursing staff member, until they're released from isolation by one of our physicians. They'll check on their symptoms and generally figure out how they're doing. They will be referred for a telehealth visit and potentially an in-person visit if symptoms worsen. Dining services will deliver food to students' rooms on a knock and drop basis. You'll have an isolation kit that will include needed supplies such as a laundry bag, personal hygiene supplies, and cleaning supplies. In addition, we will notify the Office of Academic Advising of any student situation and that they may not be able to attend class regularly until the symptoms resolve. If the students feel well enough, and many will, they'll get referral information to either a coach in the Office of Wellbeing or one of the friends in the forest to discuss online activities to keep them engaged with campus life, like Campus Rec's remote fitness options, the Office of Wellbeing's Thrive Remotely programs, the Office of Community and Civic Engagement, which can get you to tutor local children or get involved in voter registration drives, trivia contests, and other offerings from student engagement. You'll also be provided with information on how to contact the chaplains or the counseling center if more support is needed. Since these students might not feel so well, we will certainly encourage them to recover before coming engaged with other activities. Students who are exposed to COVID-19 but with no symptoms will be quarantined. It's a similar kit of supplies as I just described. And since you may be feeling perfectly well in quarantine, Student Health won't call daily, but will be monitoring your symptom checks through the Sneeze app. And of course, you would be told to call Student Health if any symptoms develop. If this happens, it will trigger a telehealth visit and likely testing for COVID-19. Now, since these students, for the most part, will be feeling fine, they should be able to participate in class remotely. In addition, we'll refer them to a coach or one of the friends in the forest, guiding them to maintain connections as needed. Of course, they will be aware of the availability of the chaplains and the counseling center as well. Especially with this group, we want them to have a positive approach to successfully completing quarantine. Now, the last thing we want to do is to send students home mid-semester, as we had to do last spring. But we are prepared to pivot to an entirely online academic experience if needed, based upon the rate of transmission and our ability to care for those who are sick. One last point. No one asked for the challenges that we're navigating now. Wake Forest is taking these measures for the health and well-being of all of us. We're not doing these things to you. We're inviting you into a critical partnership. We are each equally essential actors in lowering the probability of virus transmission on this campus. And we trust you to act with us for the welfare of all. Now, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Sharice James, Associate Director of Orientation and Lower Division Programming, who will help us consider all the other aspects that we're facing. Sharice?
Thank you, Dr. Rue. As we transition into the question and answer portion of this meeting, I want to assure you that we've sifted through the large number of questions that you have submitted, and we've selected the most frequently asked questions that were not already answered via tonight's remarks. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that there are many of you that have asked questions seeking very specific details about policy and procedures, such as exact cleaning protocols. We won't be able to get to the granular level of detail tonight, as we're still finalizing various projects over the next month before classes begin. However, I want to assure you that our teams are working purposefully in all of those areas. Some other questions like, will fall sports happen? Are they scheduled? Are easy to answer. They're being decided by entities outside of Wake Forest. And so we need to wait for the NCAA and ACC to weigh in on this. I imagine that other questions have come up since we began this conversation, and I will do my best to quickly pull those from the chat to show time as time should allow. At the completion of the town hall, we will include a recording of the town hall session on our wayforward.wfu.edu. So let's get started, shall we? Miles, I want to turn to you first and say you spent the end of your spring semester online. What were some lessons learned for you as you completed your studies or remained engaged with friends in different parts of the country or even in the world?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. For two things, I would say first, I really learned that I love space and I love my own space. I think a lot of students felt the same way when you're studying, when you have your parents or your little brother or sister around, it gets a lot of congestion in the household. So luckily it's just me and mom. So it's a very quiet household and we have our space together and we share it, but that's been fun. But secondly, I would just say for my friends, I would say that I miss how much I leaned on my friends a lot, especially, and I'll get a little personal, but when my mom had COVID, a lot of my friends reached out to me, and it was I felt loved, and I loved all of them, and I really thank them for reaching out to me when we were all just so far away. So that's how much I miss Wake Forest and my friends, and I can't wait to get back to see them. It's been so long. We do Bible studies on Monday, but hopefully other students out there with the struggles that we've all gone through, hopefully we've all found that sense of community with each other and can get those Zoom calls in and can't wait to get back. So I'm just excited to get back to see my friends.
Yeah, so I love that you've shared your excitement. Can you talk to me about some huge factors for you as you considered your own return to campus?
Absolutely. So definitely have to get back because senior year, I'm very excited to graduate. So being a second lieutenant in the Army, that should be exciting. And then most importantly, just utilizing the resources on campus, definitely seeing my professors. That has been the most exciting part about this. Also, the factor of going back and seeing my professors and engaging with them. We've had some great conversations over the summer. Actually, some of them have been helping me through the process of branching. So I can't wait to see them also. So those are some of those factors that have played in a lot.
Thank you. So Dean Iacovu, I'm going to turn to you. I know that we've had a few mentions of this, but I wanted to ask you if you could articulate that, within the last week or so, some colleges and universities have made the decision to not have students return to campus or to just go completely online or partially online, or some students return or not. Could you give some insight about the principles surrounding Wake Forest's decision to have students return?
Thank you, Dr. James. Yes, that is certainly true that schools continue to make announcements for the fall, and some of them are refining their paths forward along the way. Before I answer the question about the factors, the principles that really shape those decisions, let me share a couple of statistics to contextualize our standing vis-a-vis the greater higher education landscape. Based on 3,000 universities and colleges reporting their plans, as of last evening, 40% of them plan to be mostly in person or using a blended approach like ours. Another 28% plan to be online, and about a quarter of them are still undecided. So of the universities that have made announcements, the majority is really following the path that we have articulated in terms of our fall arrangements. At the same time, it is clear that there is not a uniform approach for all universities. And I believe there is two reasons. There's two broad categories of factors or principles that explain the differences between the stances that the universities are pursuing. The first category reflects factors related to the own readiness of a specific university. Some schools, some small schools specifically, they don't have the professional staff, they don't have the robust resources that we have on campus to help manage what is likely to be a very complex fall semester, as has been shared by Dr. Rue and our president. Others don't have access to great medical facilities and expertise like we have in our own medical center. So because of these idiosyncratic setups, some schools will have, they have to take a different path. The second category relates to the local conditions that universities face in their respective communities. It's one thing to try to manage a campus in Winston-Salem and another to do the same on a highly compact campus in the middle of an urban city with higher COVID rates. So as you can tell, universities are continuously monitoring their conditions and their level of readiness, and they calibrate their path forward based on those assessments. In all, we feel that our own internal preparedness and our current conditions will allow us to pursue our current plan. And as President Hatch shared, we have confidence in the strengths of our plans. At the same time, as you have heard many times tonight, as we have shared, we'll continue to assess the conditions on the ground and refine our plans as needed to optimize our arrangements for the health of our students and the health of our community. So I hope this gives you a little bit of an understanding for why there is some variance in the paths that the universities are pursuing.
Thank you. And Dr. Rube, you mentioned earlier today, students received communication about the required testing and quarantine prior to traveling to campus. Could you share the rationale behind asking students to complete the testing and the quarantine prior to travel? Wouldn't that undermine the integrity of the quarantine prior to travel?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. James. I appreciate that. You know, there are different ways of doing it, and our investigations tell us that it's about 50-50 whether institutions are requiring quarantine before or after arrival. For our international students, we will require quarantine after arrival in the United States. But we thought it was better, quite honestly, for students to quarantine at home. We think that's actually a safer environment. We know that once students come to campus, there are a lot of temptations to connect with friends that we think that might actually be pretty provocative. And we also know that it's very possible to travel safely. We didn't know that in March, but we do know that now. There's no evidence of airline transmission, for example. And if people are cautious with their sanitizing wipes and their Purell, it's relatively easy to travel by car and make safe decisions. So, you know, it's a balancing of risks, but we thought this was best for Wake Forest.
Thank you. And as a follow-up to that, why Azova Health? There are other, obviously, major labs, such as LabCorp, et cetera, but why Azova?
Yeah, it's a great question. LabCorp and Quest, the two biggest reference labs in the country, have been great partners for Wake Forest. We have good longstanding relationships with each of them, one in the medical center and one on campus. We integrate our student records with them, and we will continue to use them. But because of the rate of virus transmission that I referenced earlier across the country, their testing turnaround time is now 7 to 10 days for non-symptomatic, non-clinical tests. So for those diagnostic tests, which is what we need, they're the lower priority. And so there's sort of no point in doing a test. If you have to wait 10 days to get it, that's almost the quarantine period. So we will still continue to have a relationship with those big labs, but Azova has just what we need, which is this completely unobtrusive test that you can take. With Quest or LabCorp tests, you have to have a doctor watch you take your specimen. This is a spit test and relatively easy to follow up on. So we considered about 20 different solutions for this. We looked at it from their back of the house ability to provide us with the information they need, their ability to service our students, and we feel like we've come to a good decision.
Thank you. So Dean Gillespie, you articulated earlier ways in which faculty will engage both in and out of classroom with their students. If a student is experiencing challenges either with a faculty member or the modality, how can this be addressed after the semester has begun?
Thanks, Dr. James. That's a great question. In fact, students have so many ways to seek support for any challenges they might experience in any course, regardless of the course's modality. Here's what I'd recommend right out the gate. The first thing I'd suggest is that a student who's having any challenges meet with their professor. Go to office hours, make an appointment, and talk to your professor. I would also suggest that in some of our courses, math, chemistry, biology, writing, that students use the centers as well and work with the experts there. I would encourage students also to talk to their academic advisor. And I would encourage students, in addition, to reach out to the Office of Academic Advising. In some cases, it might be the right thing to go to the Learning Assistance Center. And if you're a first generation student, to talk with your advisors in the First Generation Scholarships Office as well. Sometimes academic challenges can be signs of emotional and social challenges and conflict. And it's worth knowing that we have really, really strong support for students in these areas as well. Through examples, for example, through our counseling center, which is terrific. Also reaching out to the Intercultural Center, the Women's Center, the LGBTQ Center, or other ways to get different kinds of support that may be just what a student needs, in addition to the academic support of a faculty member, academic advisor, et cetera. And don't forget that students can reach out to the chaplain's office and other religious groups for students of many faiths, Jewish, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, all these supports. So the bottom line is that Wake Forest faculty and staff make it our mission to support our students holistically. Instructors, advisors, mentors, and peer student leaders are trained and committed to helping all our students be successful in all our academic settings. And that's really what it's all about, and really, really important to be reminded of, including our virtual settings as well.
Thank you. So Dean Ikovu, I'm going to go back to you for a moment, if you wouldn't mind. You've talked a lot about sort of the dashboard and the details that the university is looking at. I know that we are all wanting to make sure that we're responsible community members, but what do you think would be the criteria to potentially go fully online? What would trigger that decision for that to potentially happen once the semester begins?
Yeah, that's a good question that we get a lot from parents, students, colleagues, as they make their plans for the next few weeks. They want to have some certainty that those plans won't change. And they just also want to know the conditions that may cause that change. And I have to give you a disclaimer that you have already heard many times tonight, that whatever we say, it's subject to not having major conditions that may happen ahead of us. In general, the criteria that we have for going fully online relate to the indicators that Dr. Ru already shared. She mentioned the dashboard that we have. Right now, the dashboard that we have developed to codify all the indicators that we're monitoring includes things like prevalence of COVID in our local community. As Dr. Ru said, prevalence of COVID in the communities in which our students currently find themselves in. We have been monitoring that for the last 7 weeks. And as of yesterday, we know that 56% of our undergraduates live in counties with COVID flat lines right now, 25% with COVID lines that are going up, and about 20%, 19% in decreasing prevalence areas. So we're monitoring both the origin of our students, our local community conditions. We're also monitoring the capacity of our student health service, our employee health service, our own medical center, as you have heard already. For both Dr. Clifford and Dr. Ru, we're investing heavily to create more robust offerings in those areas. And lastly, we're forecasting our ability. We're looking forward to see if we will have the testing capacity to support our needs throughout the semester, because we don't want to begin the semester on ground and then find out that we haven't sufficiently planned and secure what we need to be able to support our needs throughout the semester. So those are the kind of indicators that we're looking at our dashboard. And once the students arrive, we'll add additional indicators, such as the count of COVID cases that we have on ground. Right now, as you know, we have announced 3 such cases in recent weeks. We expect that number will change as we have more colleagues and students on campus. We'll be looking at the positivity of our testing to see if the prevalence of the disease is going down or up. We're also looking at our capacity of isolation beds, what that looks like. So as you can tell, some of these indicators look at the current conditions, and some of them try to look forward and help us understand what the path may look like. So we will take all of these indicators into account, and we're developing a simple system. Think of it as a green light, yellow light, red light system, if you will. And if one or more of these indicators go to red, then our leadership team, including our president, who meets regularly to review that data, could make a decision to pivot to an online only arrangement. But those are the key inputs that we're considering. I just want to share right now that we believe under the current conditions we'll be fine. So I don't anticipate that we'll be changing our plan in the next few weeks. But if conditions change outside of control, then I think the right thing to do, as our president has said, is to remain vigilant and make the best decisions that we know how at that moment to protect the safety of our students and our colleagues. So I hope
Perfect.
this was a helpful description.
Thank you. So Dean Clifford, part of that vigilance also means students doing the right things, but also university providing the appropriate support. So within Residence Life and Housing, there are a lot of common spaces, bathrooms, kitchens, lounges. Could you talk a little bit about the cleaning process, the ways in which Residence Life and Housing will be partnering with students to sort of keep those spaces clean?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. James. So as I explained earlier, we will have to make some changes to common spaces, and that may include closing some of them for the time being until we can monitor public health conditions and monitor how well our students are adhering to our good public health guidance, such as physical distancing and wearing a mask regularly. But we'll certainly reevaluate those as we can. So those changes in our common spaces are being made to reduce capacity in the physical space. Again, we might be removing furniture or the like to allow for appropriate distancing. Now, as far as cleaning, we've partnered really well with our fabulous facilities and campus services staff to increase and enhance cleaning protocols and have been practicing those since March. The residence halls receive daily cleaning and disinfecting using an EPA registered disinfectant, as well as an electrostatic spraying disinfectant, amongst the things that I didn't know about until now. Electrostatic spraying disinfectant on high touch points, such as door handles and sink handles and in common areas. While I don't have the specific schedules to share for each of those buildings, rest assured that bathrooms will be cleaned twice daily and common areas are cleaned throughout the day and across the full scope of the week, including weekends.
Perfect, thank you. So Miles, I'm going to look to you. As you prepare to complete your senior year and serve as a student body president, what are some of your priorities for engaging both the student body and the administration during this unique moment in our university's history?
Thank you, Dr. James. I would say the top priority is definitely creating that sense of transparency between students and administration, definitely working with both sides, making sure that, and working with our student trustee, obviously with other university organizations and student university offices, to ensure that we're making sure that students know about the various policies and make sure we're gathering their concerns so that we can bring them to administration and we can adapt and be able to open up. I think that's the most important part. But I think secondly, we just have to make sure that we're not getting washed by the other issues that are around us also. I think Title IX policies, also with our diversity initiatives that are coming up. We have to, and my hat goes off to Dr. Rue and the various members of the student Title IX task force that we set up in the administrative task force that's looking into those policies. So, and they're getting down to good work. And I would just say lastly, if I can, I think it's a beautiful work that I'm not doing this by myself and I'm not going at it alone. I have a great exec team. I have a great cabinet. I have a great student government senators who have also put in the same amount of work as I do. While I am the student government president, they are more so the ones with the best ideas and coming up with the best solutions. I'm not 100% right, and that's good leadership. I take ownership when things go wrong, but at the same time, they are definitely keeping me honest, and they're definitely keeping me at a high stable so that we can get things done. So my thanks goes out to the student government reps.
Perfect, thank you. So I would like to take a moment to allow our panelists to sort of share their final words with us.
I mean, I'm happy to take a second and just thank all the students and the families for their patience, for the helpful suggestions. My teammates and I have received many good ideas from them, and I invite them to continue to send them our way. This is a collective effort. I mean, it has been said many times, but it couldn't be truer in a moment like this. So I'm grateful to be able to rely on the wisdom of my colleagues, the maturity of our students, the support of our families to create an arrangement that will be really helpful to all. So I am really grateful for that community effort and look forward to continue working with our students and colleagues to make sure we're successful all the way to Thanksgiving and beyond for the spring semester.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm deeply grateful for all of your patience as we work through these difficult issues and remain flexible. And I'm deeply grateful to scores of people at Wake Forest who this summer have showed tremendous resiliency, tremendous teamwork, tremendous commitment to keeping this campus integral and making it the best possible place for our students this fall.
Thank you.
Dr. James, I would really focus on Wake Forest as a community. And I know that that's one of the things students, faculty, and staff alike prize about Wake Forest is that here you're not a number, you're known. But I'd say one of the hallmarks of community is it's not a spectator sport. Community requires everybody to be in. And this is one of those moments where I think you'll really see the character of a place come forward, where are we capable of coming together to solve common problems? Are we capable of bridging our differences in order to seek a collective common good? I think we are. Now, there's going to be an election going on, and there are going to be forces that are pulling us apart. There are deep divides in our country, and they're represented, we're a microcosm of that. But I do believe Wake Forest is uniquely suited. Our size, our residential community, our strong faculty relationships, I think we're uniquely suited to really solve for community. And that's what I'm predicting for the fall.
Thank you. As we come to the end of the formal program, I would like to be sure to thank my esteemed panelists for taking the time to share remarks and respond to our burning questions. Second, I'd like to give a special thanks to several colleagues, Dr. Zachary Blackman, Dr. Betsy Chapman, Anna Marie Carr-Reinhardt, and Ashley Seaman, who have been avidly working behind the scenes to prepare for tonight's town hall, as well as managing tonight's chat. Finally, I would like to remind you that ourwayforward.wfu.edu will continue to be updated as we grapple with many of the lingering questions surrounding our return to Wake Forest in the fall. Be well, and we look forward to seeing you on campus soon. Have a great night.